You guys all would know, I'm Caitlin. I've grown up like in Edmonton my whole life. Been married for 6 going on 7 years already, which is also weird to say because I think it hasn't been that long. And I have, 3.5-year-old girl named Thea, who is very funny and full of energy all the time, which you might see when she's walking around church in the lobby. And then I'm expecting another one in the summer. So I'm currently like 7 months along, and we're having a baby boy. So that's very exciting.
That is exciting.
One of each. Mm-hmm. And apparently, a little balance. I'm a little nervous. We'll see what the baby boy's like. My husband Daniel can be a little mischievous. So we'll see how that all plays out. No, but yeah, we're really excited. It's been fun learning how to be a mom and figuring out new things about myself that I didn't know existed that I've had to learn. But no, it's the best. Yeah. And Sheila, you have 4.
I don't know, you do 4.
You have 4 kids.
Yeah, I'm Sheila. I've been momming for 20 years and I'm exhausted. Like, seriously.
Are we on live?
We're good.
I am so exhausted.
Yes, they're filming, but this is literally just how we're going.
Sometimes I wonder, why am I so tired? And then I'm like, right, I have 4 kids.
You have 4 kids.
And I've been a mom for 20 years now and I'm tired.
Yeah.
They're great. I love them. But yeah,
tired.
I'm exhausted.
And what are their ages?
So our oldest, Isabella, is 20.
Yeah.
She's in her 2nd year of university doing nursing. Then Madison is 17.
Wow.
And she's graduating this year. And Faith and Evan are 12 and grade 6.
Grade 6.
Yeah, going into junior high.
Is that exciting or nerve-wracking? Because you've already done the junior high thing once.
Twice.
With your 2 older ones. Like you've been through the junior high and high school.
Yeah.
And then now into junior high again.
Yeah.
And it probably has changed a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I think the nice thing for these guys is their school that they're in is K to 9.
Okay.
So there's not that transition that my other girls had to do, like from, elementary to a junior high school.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's kind of nice. I think it'll just be more like of a smooth transition for them, and they, they're not making new friends. They're used to all the teachers, and I think it'll be fine.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
4 kids, 20 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm tired, but I have a 3-year-old. I'm pregnant. And
Yeah.
you're like, I'm tired. I've been a mom for 20 years. I'm like, okay, so I'm just gonna be tired.
You're just be tired for the rest of your life.
You're just gonna be tired. That's fine.
Seriously.
It's worth it. It's worth it. It's fine. Okay, and Faith?
Well, I've got 2.
Okay.
And unlike Sheila, I had the first one and I thought, oh my goodness, this is a lot of work. So it took me 10 years before I had the other one.
Okay.
And I had her because her older sister kept saying, when are you going to get my sister? She was asking since she was 2.
Oh my goodness.
And I actually promised her that when she was 9, I would get her one. And do you believe that child asked every year? And when she became 9, she was like, I'm 9.
TikTok.
Go get my sister. And by then she knew how you got them. So she was pushing me and her dad to go get her sister. So I didn't want to, be responsible for, mental health breakdowns. So we did.
And it turned out to be a sister.
And it turned out to be a sister.
That's
thank
lucky.
goodness.
Oh, man.
So my oldest is 40. She just turned 40 last weekend.
Okay.
And my younger one, of course, 10 years later is going to be 30 this summer. She actually is your peer.
Yes. Yeah.
And I will also be a granny for the first time in the summer, in June.
Oh, that's so exciting.
So,
are you excited? Are you
I
nervous?
am excited.
Like,
I'm not nervous at all. I am excited because I feel like I'm getting too old to be a granny.
Okay.
If somebody doesn't do something soon, So no, I'm excited. I actually, I feel like there are things I could have done differently with my own children that I will be able to do with my grandchild.
Okay.
If they let me.
Edith, you have 3 kids who I've obviously grown up with too. But tell me about your kids.
Well, my name is Edith, and I have 3 kids, and I've raised them on my own for the last 27 years. And I have a 32-year-old son that God has really called him onto the mission field. So he's gone across the country, obeying his calling after some rough years in his life. And I have a middle son who's married about 4 years, and they had a baby, so I'm a grandma, and he's 1. And I have a daughter who's 27, or will be 27, and she's getting married in the fall.
Amazing.
To a real cowboy.
A real cowboy.
And, the things I would do differently, I think I would have really trying to have more time for my grandson. Because I was so busy raising my 3 kids on my own. We literally lived in the van, ate supper in the vehicle, just taking them to all their events and stuff. And just really, really more than ever stirring godly values into their lives, into my grandson's life. And even now, like when he comes over, like just always playing Christian music, and it's just
being able to just like, it's kind of cool, I guess, as a grandparent. Then you get kind of another opportunity because you've had so many years to reflect and grow. And then it's like, okay, now I have a very cool relationship. I know even with me and my grandparents, like it's just it's a really cool relationship to have. And I know that they've impacted me so much just in countless ways, right? Like prayer, discipline in your faith, how you spend money, how do you be wise, so that you can be generous and like all of these different things. But then I'm sure now for you guys having grandkids, it's like, okay, what do I want to instill in my grandkids? Maybe things that you've learned since raising your own kids, but then things you have become even maybe more important to you since raising. That's very cool. What's been something you've learned since being a new mom, 20 years a mom, maybe something that you wish you did differently, or something that how it's impacted your faith?
I think similarly to what Edith said, it's just really like enjoying those moments. You're so busy, when you have little ones, like it's so busy and it's hectic, and just really being able to take that in more and just appreciate those moments, because they do just go so fast.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're in university and graduating and junior high, and and you just look back and you're thinking like, where did that time go? Yeah. So I think that's something that I wish I could kind of go back and just take in some of those moments more. But yeah.
What about for you, Faith?
For me, it would be, every time I see one of those epitaph things that says something about time, I think about that time with my kids. In my older one, before we moved here, they used to call her my purse, my handbag, because she was wherever I was. But moving here, it's a little bit more challenging when you have immigrant responsibilities as well. You feel like you have a responsibility to fit yourself into a new culture and to make sure that your kids fit in. And then you have the responsibility of molding their character. And was a little bit of a workaholic. I have learned the value of being able to say no, and I'm actually preparing myself. I'm cutting my hours even now before my grandchild is born, so that I will have time to spend with them, or him, or her.
Who knows? Where did you immigrate from?
I was born and grew up in Jamaica. So I
Okay.
came here when I was 25
25, and
With-
already had your first daughter.
with my 3-year-old in tow.
Okay.
Yeah, my husband came here first, and then almost 3 years later, we came.
Okay.
And so it was an interesting.
Yeah. What was like? I want to hear more about that because that's actually that's really fascinating. Because I can imagine like me with my 3-year-old going to a completely new place, and 3 years later, since my husband had gone, and now we're coming. So it's like you raised really like your 3-year-old at that point
On my own.
on your own, and then you're going to a completely new culture.
Yeah.
Like I would be terrified.
So it was different for sure, but my personality is this: if I'm going to do something, you're in.
Okay.
You go all in. There's no point in sort of looking back.
Yeah.
I was never, to be honest, I was never one of those that wanted to emigrate somewhere, because I always felt like third world countries. My education was free, like all through school, university, everything, and we, small countries, they build their people up, and we all go somewhere. So I was one of those soapbox people. I'm staying here and building my own. And then my husband came here, and it was kind of like, go or break up. So we chose not to break up.
Yeah.
And so coming here, the main difference was I am an independent sort, and then all of a sudden I have no anchors. And I am in another country and in somebody else's house, and in, you know what I mean? So that was more difficult for me than actually moving from a hot tropical place to a cold place. Somebody already warned me and said, look at the map, do you see how close that is to the North Pole? And so I was ready.
Were you really though?
Yeah. Are any of us ready?
I mean, I'm never ready.
But every year it's, you're surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Was it really this cold last year?
Exactly.
Why are we so surprised every year?
Every
I don't
year,
know.
Without fail.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was like one of the main things that you learned in that season? Like, is there something that you can identify that you're like, this shaped me as a mom? Like bringing a new young daughter into a new country. Like, was there something like a discipline that you did, or I don't know, like what was it like being a young mom in a new place? Like, what did you learn about motherhood in that season?
About motherhood. You basically learn that you have another human being that is dependent on you. So I matured pretty fast. I never matured because I gave birth or got married, or, it was just the same, still immature. But when I got here, I did not have the other people who would help me with the mothering bit. And so you recognize that this small person, wherever they go, you have to look out for them. You have to, nurture and nourish and defend and protect and mold, and you know what I mean? At some point, my husband, don't put this part in, but I sometimes even felt like I needed to protect her from my husband, because I felt like it was my baby for 3 years, and now I don't want you to sort of take her over. So it was difficult. It was difficult being a person, not just a mother. As far as the mothering part, I think my own mother, my mother had 8 live births, 1 stillborn, and there were always a lot of kids and a lot of things that she had to do and did with equanimity. And she was very resourceful, and she gave us the, sort of the expectation that if you have something to do, you do it. She gave me a little saying that I stuck on my desk when we opened our first clinic. Candace was actually 4 months old when I opened the first clinic. And it said, God never gave you a dream without the ability to make it come true. And so I stuck that on and always remember that. And she personified that. She was very resourceful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so cool. And for you, Edith, being a single mom, 3 kids, like really, like you said, like working hard, giving them opportunity, being in sports and all of these other things. Like, what was one thing that you maybe throughout all of it, you're like, was there one thing that you wanted to teach them in the process? Or what was it like being a single mom in that season?
Being a single mom is really a hard job, and I don't think anybody can relate until you walk those shoes.
Yeah.
And so I never got a break because I had them every day, every day. I think my kids knew then already I was 100% dependent on the Lord. You know, my van would break down, we would pray. You know, they'd have an exam, we would pray. You know, to this day, 2 kids work at Shell, and if the plants, you know, it's minus 50 out, Mom, please pray. So I really think I did teach them that they can go to the Lord. Yeah. And yeah, because I was so dependent on him for everything. I mean, sometimes I had a loony to my name. And so even now, my favorite thing is to walk and pray. It's my happy place, it totally is. And then Reed was telling me, he goes, oh, Mom, there's a pond where they live now in the circle. He goes, you can come there and walk and pray. And I said, oh, no. I said, you can go and walk and pray there now and start praying for Luke. And he looked at me, and I bet there's times when he has walked. I'm just guessing, but...
Wow.
So I just hope they learned the power of prayer, and because we were so dependent on Jesus. So,
where did you learn to pray like that? Like, was it a matter of just situation and like desperation, or was there anybody who modeled that for you, or like, yeah, how did you discover a prayer life that rich?
To be honest, I mean, I'm so thankful I grew up in a Christian home and we had devotions at night. I knew my mom prayed. She was a very calm lady. And my mother-in-law prayed a lot too. And so she taught me that too, a lot. And actually Edith Litke in our church, I used to pray over my kids' shoes before they went out, and she taught me that. And it sounds foolish, I guess, or I'd pray over a Kleenex and put it in their coat before they left. So, I don't know, but I think number one was out of desperation. But don't get me wrong, like, I'm so thankful for Christian Legacy, you know.
Yeah.
We're so blessed to know the Lord. Yeah. And, yeah, I don't know.
What I love about what you said too, it's like you learned it from like your mom in a way, your family in a way, your mother-in-law in a way, but then also just like Edith Licky, it's like you're not related to her. Like there's no family connection there, but it was a woman in your church that like you learned how to...
Well, I really
like
looked up to her. She was like my mentor in life because she raised 4 kids on her own.
That's
Sorry,
right.
I keep turning my back to
No, it's okay.
you. She raised
That's
4
incredible.
kids on her own.
Yeah.
And went through a hard time too. And,
Yeah.
you know, she used to say, I think she received like 3 free cars in her life. And I had 2. Like, so she was like, I just so admired her, and I knew she prayed. So, and yeah.
Wow.
It's that person you can connect with, right?
Yes.
Like you have
Yes.
that
Yeah.
mutual understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really
like
cool.
she got it.
She got it. What's been one thing you've learned, like, in your faith journey? I guess maybe from a mom, a grandma, or since being a mom. What's been something that's like, this is like an anchor for me type of thing?
I mean, for us, I grew up in church, grew up at Mill Woods, and my husband grew up at Southside, and, you know, we knew the church life, and we wanted that for our kids, and And then one day our world came to a crashing halt when our daughter was diagnosed with cancer. And that was pivotal for me, and I think as well for my husband, but just for me personally, it was, I think parents understand when you are pleading for your children. You know, it's unlike anything else. And when you have to just rely 100% on God, and you have to give up whatever control you think you have, which you don't actually have.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was a really pivotal time for us where we realized, like, we actually have such a responsibility in this moment to teach our kids how to deal with something like this and how we're going to just go to Christ. Like, every day as a family, we're going to pray, you know, and just, yeah, like, outside of our pain and our worry and all those different things, just really realize, like, we have quite a unique opportunity to really teach them about this, you know? And for me personally, it was life-changing. Like, my walk with Christ just, you know, opened up, and I just started reading my Bible every day, because I just thought, like, I don't want to hear what the doctors have to say. I don't want to hear statistics. I want to know what God has to say about this.
Wow.
You know, and now my daughter is healed and she's whole, and she's 11 years post-cancer, and she's doing amazing. And that, you know, we actually say it was the worst and best thing that's ever happened to us.
Wow.
Yeah. So for me personally, in parenting, that was a really pivotal thing, and just understanding the responsibility of, like, we actually have an opportunity to teach our kids something really important here, you know, and like Edith was saying, like, the power of prayer, and just as a family doing that together, you know, it's been a really powerful thing for us.
Oh man, that'd be like overwhelming. Like,
Yeah, I can't imagine.
yeah. Like, even I find in pregnancy with Thea, in this pregnancy, and then just since she's been little, and you just think about her future and, like, all these things, there's moments where I just, like, find myself like, Lord, just, like, protect her, you know, protect them, that they'll know you, and, like, that even now that she'll know you're present, like, all these different things. And it's like, I think I've come to understand just, like, the power of prayer and trusting in God's presence and the Holy Spirit to actually, like, lead her and impact her. Because, like you said, it's like, we think we have control, but they're their own person, and God has their own plan for, you know, for them. But it's like, can be overwhelming.
And as their parents, like, somehow we think we have control. Like, they're not ours.
Yeah, they're
right?
gifts.
They're his.
Yeah.
And he has it all worked out. But, like, there was a moment in time where I remember my husband and I were driving down the white mud, and he's like, I prayed the prayer today where I said, God, she's yours.
Yeah.
Not my will.
Yeah.
And I actually got mad at, I was like, you what? Like, what? Like, it frightened me. You know, it's a scary thing to pray.
Yeah.
When we think it should be the easiest thing to pray, right? But your love for your kids is so deep, and
I totally get that.
yeah. And when I brought myself to that moment too and did the same thing, that's when I really felt a release of just, like, okay, you know, like, I've just, I really felt God's presence in that.
Wow. What was it like for your journey? Because you have two of your own biological children, and then you and your husband adopted two more.
Right.
What was that process like? Like, what made you want to adopt? Like, just all of it. Yeah.
We kind of had always talked that adoption was something that we would maybe like to do, even before we had kids. And we had our girls, and we did not feel like our family was complete. And at the time, my dad was very sick and passing away, and we're kind of like, are we having another baby? Like, what are we doing? And we just decided, like, stress-wise, that would not be healthy in a pregnancy. And so we started looking into adoption. And then my daughter got diagnosed with cancer. and then my dad passed away.
Wow.
And then, we had kind of still had to finish out Bella's journey. And then once we knew that she was stable and she was okay, and then we're like, okay, like it's time, like we're going to continue with this process. And there were a lot of things along the way. It was pretty amazing how God just led us to Faith and Evan, and how he orchestrated that whole process. It was, there's so many things along the way. But and then bringing them home was interesting. It's so funny because actually, like, you have pictures, and like we would FaceTime with them, and you think, okay, like we're ready, and then you bring them home and they're sitting there looking at you, and they don't speak our language, and and we're just like, I remember just standing one day looking at them and like, okay, you're here, okay. Like it was just like this, like reality, like, okay, now you are their mom, like, so every adoption story is different, depending, on your family dynamics and all those different things. So I think every adoption story is very unique.
Yeah.
But like we called them our dynamic duo or double trouble, and there's a reason. There's a reason. They're great though.
Yeah.
They've completed our family. We love them. We feel very fortunate that God chose us, out of anybody else, to be their family. So,
what was it like going from mothering two girls? Because what's the age difference too in them?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. What's it like? Yeah. Raising two and then having another two come in.
It was actually just like starting all over. Because
Okay.
our older girls were at the point where they were pretty self-sufficient, and then we started, it was like, well, we brought the twins home on their 3rd birthday.
Okay.
So it was like 2-year-olds. We're like back to naps, back to pull-ups, back to potty training, back to just totally going back. So that was a little bit challenging.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, just, when you're out of that stage and then you're
right back there.
Right back in there. Yeah. And there were also, there's a lot of dynamics of just adjustment for our biological children, and vice versa for Faith and Evan to come to Canada to, to lose the family that they knew, so to speak, and to miss those people and ask for them, and those different things. So there's a lot of things that you kind of just have to walk through. And you don't know, like, just by flying by the seat of your pants, really. Can't really prepare for it, right?
Lord help me today. I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't know what's coming.
Wow. If there were to be like one thing that you were to hope that your kids would know as they maybe begin to have their own families, as they continue to process and grow through junior highhood, young adulthood, into marriage, all these things, like, what would be the one thing that you'd want them to know?
For me, I think that would be your walk with Christ can always be deeper. So, there's always ways that you can connect more. There's always ways that you can invite him more. There's always ways that you can seek him more. And that's something I've kind of learned over the past, 10 years or so as well, is just seeking him in different ways, and how important I think that is just for your kids to see too, to really see you doing those things versus just like talking about those things. I just think for me that's important, because I think we can just think that, like, okay, we're good, like, we know Jesus and we're good, and there's just is always so much more, I think, that we can seek and search out for.
Yeah. Faith, what about for you?
Similar. I think with raising my children, which were like two only children, one being 10 years older than the other, I would like them to be able to appreciate more the influence, of God in their lives. I was too busy. We went to church. They knew about God. They did the mechanics of church, but the actual, imbibing of God in their lives, I don't think I was successful in instilling that in them. I think I was successful enough in making them moral people, but in terms of the value of a spiritual walk with God, that's what I would like them to have and be able to pass on to their own children. My mother did her very, very best. We had devotions, every evening. We all had to pray, and which sometimes we would be like whispering, and she would ask us to pray louder, and we would say, "We're not talking to you, we're talking to God."
That's so
That's awesome.
But I think, in all seriousness, I think it skipped my generation, where it was more the mechanical side of what Christianity was about, and not so much the experiential side of it. And that's what I would like for them to be able to see, that I can model that a little bit better in these later years, and be able to get them to experience that more personally.
Right. Yeah, I get that for sure. Edith, you kind of answered this a little bit already, but is there something specific that you're like, I really want my grandson to know this, really want my kids to know this, and even kids yet to come, to know this?
That you can't live without Jesus.
Yeah.
You'll never make it without Jesus.
Yeah.
I actually like what you said about growing deeper. I think my prayer is just that my kids would just totally grow in the Lord. And even for Luke, I just hope I can show him Christ in this crazy world. Life is hard.
Yeah.
And even I really pray that my kids would really, grow deeper, and really, don't go to prayer at the end, go to prayer at the beginning of your situation, and that you can trust them, and they would just grow deeper in their walk for sure.
For me, it's like there's a lot of things. I get very overwhelmed. I'm like, well, I don't know what I can show. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure this out a little bit. But I just hope that she's she comes to understand who she is in Christ, fully.
And her value.
Yeah. And that what God calls her to, he'll prepare her for, and directs her path accordingly. And there's no weapon that is formed against her that will prosper if she is rested in the Lord. And so that's a prayer that I have for sure. And I just hope that I can exemplify that, in the way that I've seen my mom exemplify it, that I've seen my grandma exemplify it. And I mean just my parents as a whole, and my grandparents, and those people that are very fundamental in just shaping you as a person. But I think that's been something that for me has been so crucial, is knowing that I can stand on the firm foundation of Christ, and knowing who I am in him, and that he has my best interest. Being obedient to him is the best thing you can do, all those little things. And it's trusting in him is the best thing. I can't do it on my own, all of those things that you guys are talking about. And it's I hope that my kids will know that, and that we can exemplify that I can exemplify that. Because you don't really always know what you are passing on. But that's my hope, that is what she'll get. This might be a weird question, but I want to ask it. Is there something that if like, yeah, if your grandkids were to, you know, talk about you, is there an area that you're like, I really want to be remembered for this? Or I hope that like when they think about me, that this is what they remember. Like, is there anything specific that comes to mind for that when you're like reflecting on how they might remember you as, basically, in a non-weird way, but in a sincere way? Who wants to go first?
Well, honestly, I can wait, but can't wait to be a grandma.
Totally.
I'm really looking forward to it someday.
Yeah.
I just, like, for me, it's just, you know, I've thought about that before too. Just like, what do I want, like, down the road to be known for, or what do I want my kids to remember about me? Or, and I do think it's just, for me, boils down to Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just trying to do my best to, as you said, be an example, you know, to my kids, my grandkids, to just show that love of Christ in any way that I can. And just like that foundation, you know, I think that is just so important in families, just to have that Christ-centered foundation.
Yeah.
You know, and it's if you think of influencing one person for Christ and how that trickles down through generations and generations and generations, right? So I think just the importance of that.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say I would like my grandchildren to never have any doubt that they are loved, that I love them, that, you know, their parents love them. But I would like to be, I'd like them to be able to remember that my love for them came out of, you know, me, like God's love for me.
Yeah.
So that they will understand that, yes, I love them, but it comes from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that that they will sort of, you know, sort of breathe that in and just live that in their lives as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luke, I want what I would want him to remember me is my good cooking. No, and someone that trusted the Lord. I mean, I'm far from perfect.
Yeah.
But they would know that he would know, and it's really scary because when you think he is the next generation.
Yeah.
So, you know, we need our legacy to keep going.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want it broken. So, yeah, I just hope he knows that I trusted the Lord, and it's the most important thing in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Just
It's like, what else? What else is there? Like, what's the purpose?
I don't know how people live without Jesus. I just don't know.
I honestly think about that all the
I
time.
don't understand it.
I feel like that too.
Yeah, and I feel so
can't.
bad that people are trying to navigate life without that anchor.
Honestly.
It is like mind-blowing to me.
Yeah. even just something that I've learned just in a new way is like new mercies every morning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because there's been so many times where I'm discovering all these things. It's like as I'm raising, you know, a toddler, like I lose my patience. I get really irritated, you know, or try to have
we do
control.
mess up.
All these things, right? Like you rediscover all of these things about yourself that you maybe knew but you didn't know, and then now it's impacting and shaping another person in their life. And it's like, okay, well, thank the Lord for grace and forgiveness, and you know, he's bigger than it, and we're learning, and you can start new tomorrow. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but if it was all reliant on me and like, well, I have to be a good mom, and it's like, no wonder there's so much pressure in society to be a good mom and to have it all together and blah, blah, blah. Because if I don't, then my kids will, all these things. And it's like, oh, praise God that I don't have to do this on my own. Like, praise God that I have Jesus. Because if I didn't, I just don't know how I would do it, And so.
It's so true. That's what I love about just pouring your heart out and just laying it at the cross and say, I can't carry this on my own, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he comes through every time.
He's so faithful, faithful.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys being able to come and just share. Really appreciate it. It's super special. And just to hear from, honest journeys of how motherhood's so different for every single person. Mm-hmm. And that's like the beauty of it. But then, just to learn, how God moves in different ways and stuff. So really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to do this and be able to just talk about it. So I appreciate it. I'm going to pray to close. If that's okay. John, is there anything else? That's good? No, good? God, we just thank you so much for, we thank you so much for today. We thank you for who you are and each of these families represented, each of the legacies that are represented even here in this room, and all of those that have impacted all of us here. And we just thank you and we give you all glory and praise. We ask that you would continue just to bless each family, that you would have favor on each family, and that you'd reveal yourself even greater to each of us, and that we would know what it means to be loved by you and to demonstrate and exemplify that to those around us. And so we just trust you, we love you, and we give you all glory. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.